All right, get ready, because today we are going deep into a huge debate. And it's been all over the World of Warcraft forums.
Oh, yeah.
Transmog restrictions.
Oh,
You
Transmog!
guys sent us a thread just, overflowing with opinions.
Really?
And these players are fired up.
It's interesting, it's fascinating how something like what your character wears, something that seems superficial, can get people so just riled up. But I guess when you think about it, this debate really gets at some of the core parts of the game, like, player identity, how prestigious rare items are, even like, I don't know, what's fun in a virtual world.
Definitely. But for those who might not know, Transmog is this really cool system in WoW that lets you change how your armor looks
Right.
without changing its stats.
Yeah.
You can have like the best gear, but make it look like whatever you want.
Exactly. It's a great tool for players to express themselves, but naturally that freedom leads to the question of where the line should be. And in this case, it seems like that line is around those really sought after class tier sets, the special armor sets you get for beating those like really hard raids.
Yeah. Well, I would only use Transmog on these sets if you're playing the class they were designed for. So no rocking that mage tier set if you're a warrior, no matter how much you love it.
Yeah.
And that's where all of our forum posters come in, ready to fight over whether this restriction is too much.
Exactly. You've got someone like Jada, for example. They come out swinging. They say that class fantasy is gone because you can already make your character look like other classes through all sorts of different cosmetic choices.
Right.
They want to go even further and let players wear any armor type, regardless of class.
So just total transmog anarchy.
Yeah.
I can see it appealing to players who like experimenting with unique looks. But wouldn't that kind of blur the lines between classes a bit too much? I mean, part of the fun in WoW is feeling like your character has a distinct role, right?
Yeah, that's the central tension here, right? How do you balance player freedom with keeping that visual identity of each class?
Right.
And maybe even, that feeling of accomplishment that comes with earning those class-specific sets.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it does seem like some players are really attached to those class distinctions. Like Magnarok pointed out that class-specific sets were actually brought back because players demanded it.
Oh, wow.
After a time when sets were just type-specific. So clearly, a lot of the player-based values that link between armor and class identity.
Yeah, it shows how important those visual cues are to the WoW community. It's not just about stats, It's about feeling like you belong to a certain group. It's like a quick way to tell what someone's role is just by how they look.
It's like, wearing your team's jersey, like showing off your pride, your affiliation. But let's be honest, some of these arguments in the thread get a little heated. Veru, for instance, is totally against letting male armor wearers transmog into other types just because, and I quote, the other types look better.
Well, you gotta laugh a little at some of these debates. But, Veru's comment shows something we see a lot. This idea that some armor types just look better than others.
Right.
Which, that makes things even more complicated, doesn't it?
Definitely. It's like saying, I want to wear that because it looks cool and mine doesn't, which, let's be real, is a pretty normal thing to think. But then it brings up this whole other question. Should Blizzard even try to make all the armor types look equally good? Is that even possible?
That's a tough one. Taste is subjective, right?
Yeah.
But one person thinks it's cool, another might hate. But maybe it's about making sure each armor type has its own, strong look, a bunch of different styles, so there's something for everyone.
So instead of trying to make everything universally beautiful, they could focus on the unique parts of each type. Like how mail is rugged, cloth is elegant, and plate is big and imposing.
Right, exactly. Celebrate the variety of looks. Make sure each armor type feels special and cool in its own way.
I like that.
But even if Blizzard gets the look of every armor set perfect, there's still that question, how flexible should the transmog system be?
Right. We can't forget about Sendrin, who figured out how to make a Fury Warrior wear the Mythic Nighthold Death Knight set using offset pieces.
Whoa!
And for anyone who doesn't know, Mythic Nighthold was one of the hardest raids in WoW ever.
Oh, wow.
So that's no small feat.
Yeah.
This shows that players can already get really creative with the restrictions.
That's really cool. It shows how dedicated players are to customizing their characters. But it also makes you wonder, should everyone have to go through all that trouble, to find workarounds?
Right.
Or should the system itself just be more flexible?
That's a good question. On the one hand, finding those clever workarounds, it can be fun. It's rewarding. But on the other hand, if everyone wants to try different looks, maybe the system should make it easier.
Yeah, it comes back to that basic question. What's most important to players? Is it the thrill of the hunt, like finding those perfect pieces to
Killing enemies.
or is it being able to express yourself without a bunch of rules holding you back?
And that's where things get really interesting, because even among the players who want more transmog freedom, there are different levels of how much change they want.
Yeah.
You've got people like Yada who want complete freedom, any armor, any class, no rules.
Anarchy.
Right, but then you have people like Peterson
Right.
who have a more specific idea. They don't necessarily want total freedom, but they want more flexibility within the armor types, like letting plate wearers use some mail pieces or mail wearers use some leather.
Huh, that's a really interesting idea. It recognizes that people want more customization, but still respects those main visual categories. It's about letting players fine-tune their look, maybe even drawing inspiration from their character's leveling journey, when they often have to wear armor outside their intended type.
It's like adding a little spice to your dish.
Yeah.
You're not changing the whole recipe, but you're giving it your own twist.
Exactly.
Okay.
It could lead to some really cool hybrid looks, like a warrior who looks like a seasoned ranger, or a mage with elements of a tribal shaman.
That would be cool.
It raises a big question, though. Could a system like that make most players happy without totally changing the current system?
Right.
And, potentially making those hard-earned class sets less valuable.
All right, so we've got people who want total freedom, people who are happy with how it is now, and then people somewhere in between. Where do we even start with all of this?
Well, I think it's time to dig into the psychology behind it all, because this isn't just about pixels on a screen, right? It's about identity, status, and what we value in these online spaces. And that's where it gets really interesting. This whole thing, this World of Warcraft forum thread, it's like a tiny version of a much bigger conversation that's happening all over gaming. It's about individual expression and shared experience, wanting to be unique, but also wanting to belong.
So it's like deeper than can my warrior wear a dress?
I just want to
It's
destroy.
what's important to us in games, what makes these virtual worlds feel real.
Exactly. Think about it. Why do we care so much about how our characters look in a video game?
Well, for some people, it's all about role-playing, like creating a character that really embodies a certain personality. For others, it's about standing out, showing off their creativity and their own style. And for some, it's definitely about showing off those rewards they worked hard for. Like, hey, look at this awesome set. I got it from a raid.
Yeah, you got it. And when you have something like Transmog, which touches on all of that self-expression, social status, achievement, it's going to cause some heated discussions.
It's like they say, clothes make the man,
Yeah.
or the orc, or the elf, or whatever you're playing.
Right. And it's a challenge for developers like Blizzard. How do you make everyone happy, cater to all those different desires while also keeping the game world consistent? Too much restriction can kill creativity and fun, but too much freedom can make achievements feel less special and mess up the game's visual identity. It's a tough balancing act.
So how do you find that balance? Is there a way to make the players who want more transmog freedom happy without upsetting the ones who like the current system?
That's the big question, and there's no easy answer. But I think part of the solution is understanding the psychology behind all of this. Why are some players so insistent on keeping those strict class restrictions, while others are practically begging for, like, transmog chaos?
Okay, I'm listening.
Only druids should have
What's going on with
leather.
these players?
Well, for the players who want to keep those class boundaries,
Right.
it often comes down to a sense of order and tradition. They like knowing that a warrior will always look like a warrior, a mage will always look like a mage.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, keeping that shared visual language, being able to instantly tell what a character
This
is
night should always wear black.
by looking at them.
It's like knowing what to expect when you walk into a store. You see someone in a green apron, you know they work there. It makes things feel familiar and predictable.
Exactly. And that can be really comforting, especially in a huge, complicated world like World of Warcraft, where there's already so much to learn. But then you have those players who want to break free from those rules, the ones who want to experiment and push the boundaries of self-expression. For them, it's about being different, about showing off their creativity and individuality.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Hey, I earned this gear, I beat these challenges, now let me have some fun with it. Let me create a look that's totally unique.
Yeah, and that's a completely valid desire. Character customization is a huge part of why people love these games. It's a way to make the game world feel more personal, more like their own.
It's like decorating your house. You want it to reflect your taste, your personality. You don't want it to look just like everyone else's.
Exactly. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Even among those players who want more transmog freedom, there are different levels of like how intense they are about it. You have players like Jada who want complete freedom, any armor type, any class, no rules at all.
Total transmog mayhem.
Right. But then you have players like Peterson who have a more nuanced perspective. They're not necessarily saying they want complete chaos, but they want more flexibility within the existing armor types.
Yeah.
Like letting a plate wearer use some mail pieces or a mail wearer try out some leather accents.
It's like they're saying, I want to play by the rules, but give me some room to be creative, to add my own personal touch. Like a chef who takes a classic recipe and makes some small changes.
What is Valkyrie?
Recognizable, but has their own unique twist.
That's a great analogy, and I think that's where some really interesting solutions could come from. Finding ways to give players